It just froze. Do they have to do something?
All right. Good morning, everyone. We had a couple technical hiccups there from several of us, but we're all here and accounted for at this time. So we are now on the record and video streaming, and I'm calling this evidentiary hearing to order. My name is Andrew French. I'm chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission, serving as presiding officer for this hearing. I'm joined by my fellow commissioners Dwight Keene and Annie Keither. This is docket number 25 CONS 3265 CWLE, and it's captioned in the matter of the application of Val Energy Inc. for a well location exception and assignment of attributed acreage and oil allowables for its Rogers number 1-20 well in section 20, Township 32 South, Range 6 East, Cowley County, Kansas. We are going to start with entrances of appearances from the parties. Just an opportunity for each of you to introduce yourself. So we will start first with counsel from Val Energy.
Thomas Rhodes on behalf of the applicant, Val Energy.
And Mr. Rhodes, we're getting some feedback. I think if you and Mr. Allen are in the same room, one of you is going to have to mute your microphone while the other one's talking.
Well, we're taking care of that. Thank you.
Or you can move to different rooms.
We're doing that too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, we will move for an entry of appearance from commission staff.
Good morning, Chair French, Kelsey Marsh, on behalf of commission staff and the public generally.
Good morning, Mr. Marsh. And then Mr. Gates, if you'd introduce yourself.
I'm Bill Gates from Bergen, Kansas.
Good morning, Mr. Gates. All right. We will now move to notice of this proceeding. Does staff have a recommendation of notice?
Yes, Chair French. On October 27th, 2025, the presiding officer provided notice of this hearing by filing an order setting a pre-hearing conference and setting evidentiary hearing, wherein an evidentiary hearing was scheduled for Thursday, December 18th, 2025, beginning at 9:00 a.m. via the Zoom video conferencing platform. The presiding officer's order was properly served on the parties who are all in attendance today. Additionally, the operator provided notice of this hearing through publication in the Wichita Eagle and Cowley Courier Traveler newspapers. Staff recommends the commission find that notice is proper and that it has the jurisdiction to hear this matter at this time and place.
Well, it looks like everybody's here, but are there any objections to notice? Hearing none, and based on staff's recommendation, I will find that notice is proper and the commission has jurisdiction over this proceeding at this time and place. Okay, we will move to just a few preliminary matters, just some logistics before we get going, before we discuss the procedure for the hearing. So I want to run through a few standard reminders. We are conducting this over Zoom. Sometimes we know things can go wrong, as we've already found out. If any party encounters a technical issue, just please ask to go off the record. We can recess and resolve that issue, and then we'll go back on the record. Second, we'll ask everyone to keep your microphones off or muted when you're not scheduled to talk. And if everyone would mute your cell phones, phones in your offices, other electronic devices, that would be appreciated. Third, so the parties are aware, if the commission needs to consult among ourselves for something like an evidentiary ruling, we'll go off the record and we'll enter into what's called a Zoom breakout room and to discuss, and then we'll return and go back on the record. Fourth, please be very careful to identify exactly what you're referring to when you're discussing any pre-filed testimony or exhibits. We should have paper copies of everything on hand and should be able to follow along as long as people identify exactly what you're talking about. With that, do the parties have any other preliminary matters that you wish to take up? Hearing none?
Chair French.
Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we will move into the procedure for the hearing. Typically, we do allow all the parties to make a brief opening statement. After opening statements, we have examination of the witnesses. we will allow direct examination of each witness. Then there'll be an opportunity for cross-examination and questions from the commissioners, and then redirect, and then any further examination would be at the discretion of the commission. Following witness examination, we'll allow closing statements and arrange for filing of post-hearing briefs if the parties believe that's necessary, and then we will conclude the hearing. So we will move first to opening statements. I don't believe we've set any time limits, but I would ask the parties just to be brief and succinct with what your position is in the case. So we will start first with the applicant, Val Energy. Mr. Rhodes, if you'd like to proceed.
Briefly, Chair French, this is an application by Val Energy for a well location exception for its Rogers 120 well. The well was approved by the KCC and drilled by Val based on its survey showing the well to be at a legal location. Protesters have provided a survey allegedly showing the Rogers 120 well is 276 feet or 54 feet too close to the boundary of their mineral rights that adjoin Val's lease, but have not produced testimony from the surveyor to substantiate their claim. In any event, protesters have produced no evidence to substantiate any claim of waste or violation of their correlative rights as a result of the location of the Rogers 120 well. On the other hand, Val Energy has produced testimony that fracture treatment of the Mississippian Formation in the Rogers 120 well will not extend more than 230 feet from the well bore, so the protesters' Mississippian reserves will not be affected. The KCC staff geologist, Mr. Estes, agrees with this assessment. Nevertheless, the KCC staff witness recommends that the allowable assigned to the Rogers 120 well be reduced by 16% to allow for the possibility that the well may be 54 feet too close to the lease line. Val Energy is willing to accept this recommendation. Based on the evidence to be presented today, Val Energy requests that the commission grant its application for a well location exception for its Rogers 120 well, reduced to 84% of its full allowable if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Mr. Marsh, for commission staff, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, thank you, Chair French. Staff has reviewed the application submitted by Val Energy, Inc. and believes that it meets the requirements outlined in KAR 82-3-108. While staff doesn't think it's necessarily appropriate for a well to be drilled closer than allowed prior to an application being filed, staff recommends that the application in this matter be granted with an 84 barrel per day allowable assigned to the well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. And finally, Mr. Gates, would you like to make a statement of your position?
Yeah, I tell you what, the reason I'm down here, I do believe there's laws against liars and thieves. I say that because, some things happened that just ain't quite right. So that's why I'm here. And I think the first thing we need to get straightened out is this surveying. Am I taking up too much time? You said brief.
Nope. I'll give you a few minutes.
No, I don't need them. I can tell you later. They went in there and they Advantage Elevation is the one that done valves, and I have a copy of it here, and a lot of it's handwritten, and it ain't got no certificate on it. I went in there and I went up with the guy, and he was supposed to be here today, but he died, and he's a good friend of mine. But he noticed the well was awful close. He was interested in buying my interest up there, and he said, "Boy, that deal ain't no good." Well, I had it resurveyed, and they had, when they come out and survey it, in the second survey, was a company out of Arkansas City called Oaks, Smith and Oaks, I think it was. But anyway, yeah, Smith and Oaks. They done it just like they surveyed it just like Advantage did. I tried to talk to him, but you couldn't talk to him because I went in there to the where you pay your taxes, and I got a copy here of it, and it shows where the line is, and it shows also that was right up his fence line, and that was the boundary. Now I'll tell you, when this was surveyed, let's say it's in 1849, they done a pretty good job. And what they surveyed for, they wanted to find out how many acres was in the Louisiana Purchase. So they did it in sections, 640 acres. Well, they had a wheel. And you know how big around the wheel was? And every time they marked how many rotations, they took it times wheel, and then they prorated the last wheel. They had another deal called loop and chain, a ring and chain, I think it was. They had a pin they stuck in the ground, had a loop on it. They run this chain through that loop. They pulled it to the end of the chain. They put another pin down there where the end of the chain was. And then they pulled on the chain and they pulled that pin. They run it through this loop. And they continued doing that. When they got done, they counted their loops and prorated the last chain. Well, that went for years and years and years. And it's still goofing people up today. Down there at Cambridge in June the 16th, that's when it's supposed to be up here. They sold a property 2 miles north of Cambridge on the west side of the road, and it was west half of the northeast quarter. 80 acres. And it's kind of funny. There's a lot of people there. And they sold it. They said when you're going to sell it by the acre, whatever it brings, you pay that times 80. But he said, the good deal is when you pay your taxes, you only got to pay on 73 acres. 73 acres is all he owned. And people sat right there, and we got $3,555 an acre. That little deal cost that boy a little over $10,000. I think that's what it figures. But that's what I'm talking about. Well, when these farmers, see the government, they know that they're trying to feed these people cheap, and when they don't feed these people cheap, they get thrown out of office. They vote them out. Well, the government, they had pretty good track of things, but they thought they did. But when they found out that they was going to pay on bushels and pay on acres, substitute. They knew about what these farmers took to get them along, and these farmers love them little checks. They just run to the post office, or run to the mailbox. They got to have them to survive, and that's what they want them to do. They want them to keep raising that food. Well, when the government got finding out they was getting stung, they went and they got some better computers and better ways, and then they done it again. They got better computers and better ways. And the last deal, the farmers have got them now. They can turn that tractor loose, and he'll plant the whole field. And that drill, when it comes by, and it is planted, it won't even plant. But anytime one row It's per row. If one row is not planted, he'll start planting, saves that seed. That seed's awfully expensive because they don't sell it by the pound, they don't sell it by the bag, they sell it by the seed. Farmers talk about putting 23,040 acres or 400 pounds, 400 seeds, 23,400 seeds per acre on that corn. That's kind of the way that goes. But what the deal is, and I've been involved with this. I've had a place up there, and it made awful good crops, but some of it didn't make as good as my neighbors, and I thought mine was just as good or better than his. Well, 20 acres of it, I didn't have. See, when anybody goes up there and they say they had the west half, you're talking of 160. They said I got a half of 160 up there. I got a quarter. Well, you think 80, and you think, and when that deal's done, let me tell you something. This thing is within an inch, less than an inch. It's on the dough. They when they surveyed that, they went out there in the road, and they dug around, and they got the pin, and they plugged that, whatever that wand is, they stuck it in the ground. It lit up. The whole deal was there. And that's just like Advantage did. Well, they staked the well. I think Advantage staked the well. I think they staked it right to their measurement. But to tell you what the deal is, their measurement is wrong. And I just told you the reason how it's wrong and why it's wrong and how it can be wrong. But the drilling companies, these people drill these wells, they love them because they can get a little part of what they call that neighbor's, as you guys refer to it, 1 acre of oil. Well, that's probably good, but really, when you cheat somebody, I don't really think it's smart. I don't think that's intelligence. I don't. I think that's a different quality. But and everybody, they do a lot of them. First time I come over here, I went to another office on the other side of town. I met a guy called Jeff Clock. That's what it was, Jeff Clock. And he's a real nice guy. Got a lot of big kick out of him. We had a lot of visits, and he's real comical. He knows a lot of people over there where I've been associated with a lot. And he told me how they measured off. And pretty soon, he told me, he said, Bill, he said, I think you'd be better off if you hired somebody to represent you. I said, you do? And he said, I sure do. And I said, do you know anybody? His back was turned. He's working on the day. He said, yes, I do. I said, how much will that cost? He turned around and said, $7,000. That kind of raised the flag for me. That's a little quick for a country boy, And I said, I don't believe I want to give somebody $7,000 to tell the truth. Well, they wouldn't listen to me. So I went over there and got this Smith & Oaks. And Smith & Oaks, they, I told them, I said, tell you what I want you to do. I want you to measure. I want you to get a measurement from my property line that joins Roger's property line. I said, I want to get a measurement how far I am from it. When I went up there, that well was already drilled and the jack was on it. I don't know if they'd pumped it yet or not, but it was already set up. And so they measured it and they said, it is. It's only, they said you're 276 feet instead of 330. Well, I go back in there and I paid him $1,600, $1,700, $1,600 some dollar. And I said, I want to tell you something, I'm not very happy. I said, I told you, why didn't you do what I told you? I said, I told you to measure the distance from the well bore to the line, property line. Well, they said, we just measure in sections. And I said, well, I'll tell you something. I'm going to come back down here. And I promise you guys, I'm not going to be a very happy little boy. And they got throwing their hands in there. I kind of got a kick out of it. But he said, you know, I was going to, you know, I'm still going to ask that money back. I'm going to take them to, but they done me wrong. But what the deal was, and one guy, he kind of caved in. He worked it out. And when you go to the real line, we're only 258 feet to the well bore, where it is now. And that is, you see, the old wheel and the old chain didn't do a very good job there. And they sold up here at Cambridge, they sold that 80, which was 77. And that's kind of funny. You know, they talked about 80 acres, but in the courthouse, you know, they said it's only 77. I don't know what it is. I got it here. At a fraction. 70-point fraction. So, and it's all right here. And it's, you can call them, you can do what you want to do. You know, that's your business. And so how do you feel about the survey?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gates. All right. We are going to move into everyone's opportunity to examine witnesses at this point. So we are going to start with the applicant. Mr. Rhodes, you may call your witness.
Call Todd Allen, president of Val Energy.
Mr. Allen, I'm going to swear you in. We don't have a court reporter today. This will be transcribed, but we don't have a court reporter, so I'm going to swear you in. So I'll please ask that you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Mr. Rhodes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair French. Mr. Allen, can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
It's Kevin Todd Allen at, you want the business address?
Please.
8625 East 37th Street North, Suite 104, Wichita, Kansas, 67226.
And what is your position with respect to Val Energy?
President.
And as president of Val Energy, Mr. Allen, did you cause to be filed direct pre-filed testimony consisting of 6 numbered pages and 3 exhibits?
Yes.
And also, did you pre-file rebuttal testimony consisting of 8 numbered pages and 1 exhibit?
Yes.
Is there anything about the pre-filed testimony that would differ today from what you're going to testify to today?
No.
There are no changes to your pre-filed testimony. Is that correct?
Correct.
Chair French, we request that the pre-filed testimony of this witness be accepted by the commission and made a part of the record in this docket.
Any objections?
No objections.
Hearing none, the reference testimony exhibits will be admitted.
And we'll tend to the witness for cross-examination.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rhodes. We will begin with commission staff. Mr. Marsh, do you have any questions of this witness?
I do not, Chair French.
Protester, Mr. Gates, do you have any questions of this witness? And Mr. Gates, if you're speaking, you need to unmute your
Right, that's
microphone.
right.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you something about Todd Allen. Todd Allen was a great man. I like people that likes to make money. I like people that works. And I mean, enjoy work. And I think he enjoyed his stuff a lot. But I want to tell you a little something. He come in there.
Mr. Gates, I'm just going to remind you, this is an opportunity to ask the witness questions. You've had the opportunity to make your own statement, and you'll get the opportunity to testify later. But I will just ask that you ask the witness questions. You can preface them with a little statement, but please try to put it in question form.
Okay, I will. But I tell you, I'm going to tell you this now. He had cancer real bad, and I tell you what, and that ain't all. Then my wife had the same cancer he did. It's a hereditary. It's a gene, and you can't believe how bad that chemo is. I'm not talking about the radiation. I'm just talking about the chemo. And I want to tell you something. They got in a lot of trouble over there, and financially, I know they did, because this Joe Baker, he told me about it, and he said,
Okay, Mr. Gates, again, I'm just going to ask you to, if you've got a question for the witness, ask him the question.
"No, I'm going to tell you about the witness." And I think I'll tell you what it did to my wife. It gave her some damage, and I think it give him damage because he's a different man now. And I'm talking about mental.
Okay, is that all, Mr. Gates?
That's it.
Okay. All right, let's move to commissioner questions. Are there any questions of this witness from the commissioners? I see a no from Commissioner Keither. Commissioner Keen, do you have any questions of this witness?
Sure, yes, thank you.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Allen. Good morning, Mr. Allen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're talking to me.
I am
Right.
speaking to you.
Yes. Go ahead.
No, I'm speaking to Mr. Allen, not to you, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Gates. Can you hear me, Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Just a couple of questions for you, if I can. I certainly respect the depth of the experience that Val has, and you indicated what that consists of within your pre-filed testimonies, insofar as the drilling, completion, and production of Mississippian wells in Cowley County. Approximately how many of these have you, just within Cowley County itself, have you completed?
Somewhere between 50 and 60. I've lost count.
Okay. And what has been your completion technique with these wells? Is it an acidized and with a sand frac? What's the usual completion technique?
Perforation, break down the perforations with acid. We don't swab back. We immediately frac. Somewhere between 10 and 15 frac tanks per well, pumping about 450 barrel of water per frac tank.
So do the math for me. About approximately how much water is that? 6,000, something like that.
6,750 barrels of total fluid.
Okay.
Would be the large frac.
Okay. I'm looking now at let's see, which is it here? It's your direct testimony. Specifically, I'm on page 4. Beginning at line 15. Pardon me. And the question for you posed here is, will production of oil from the Rogers 1-20 well at its present location cause waste or violate the correlative rights? And you respond to that by providing 7 reasons why you believe that is not the case. In fact, I think by my count, going on over to page 6, I think there are 3 reasons that you proffer as to why you believe that the well in this location does not cause waste or violate correlative rights. And the first of those is set forth on line 17. I don't know if you're trying to follow along with me or not, but do you have that?
I do not.
Okay, I can paraphrase it for you. If I paraphrase it incorrectly, Mr. Rhodes, if you're following along, please correct me.
Be my pleasure, Mr. Commissioner.
Rare opportunity, right, Tom?
Right.
The first reason you give is provided on lines 17 through 20 on page 4, and the essence of that is that you believe that you relied in good faith upon a survey that showed that there was actually a distance of some 330 feet from the protesters, the line that designates the protesters' rights. Can you tell me, I'm not sure that the record is terribly clear on this as far as Val's position. What in your opinion today is the distance from the property or the mineral rights land line and the well?
Well, at this point, we operated off of the advantage elevation staking plat that Larry Riffey pulled. And I'm sure he used the old Laughlin and Simmons because he was an employee of Laughlin Simmons. And when they left the state, he pulled all of their records. And I've been on location when he staked other locations, and he refers to the Laughlin Simmons records. And he pulls off of the staking plats that they had in the section township and ranges, and then he confirms it with GPS off of satellites, and he drives the stake in the ground, and then we tell the drilling rig that's where the well's staked per the plat that we've applied to the KCC for a drilling permit, and proceed ahead.
Okay. So as of this morning, what do you believe the distance to be from the property line to the well?
Per our survey, we're 330 feet, but.
And the well was drilled.
That is a very irregular section. If you look at a plat, the east line is at a diagonal. And if you look at the plat, I think Larry Riffey pulled off the west line, which is a true north-south line.
Okay. The second reason that you give for why it is you believe this is within this is within the direct pre-filed testimony. Second reason that you provide for as a reason for why you believe the Rogers number 1-20 well in its present location will not cause waste or violate correlative rights has to do with what you are asserting here is drainage. I'm going to characterize it myself in my own vernacular here, maybe correctly, but it's the drainage pattern that you believe is common to the Mississippian Reservoir in this particular area of Cowley County. Is that a general statement? Is that correct generally, how I paraphrased you?
Yes.
Okay. again, based upon that same testimony, I'm looking at lines 5 through 11, and I'll read that for the benefit of the record. It says, this is your testimony. Based upon our experience with fracking several hundred Mississippian wells in south central Kansas, we know that the fracture envelope never extends more, says that, 230 feet on either side of the wellbore along the azimuth of the frac plane. Therefore, we are confident that production of Mississippian oil reserves from the Rogers 1-20 well will not drain any offsetting Mississippian reserves approximately 276 feet from the well in which the protesters claim an interest or violate the protesters' correlative rights. End of quote. Those are lines, as I say, 5 through 11 of your testimony. Here's my question for you, and I have to rely upon your experience in this area to a great extent, for certain. But when you frack wells in this Mississippian zone, isn't it possible, in fact, maybe in certain areas probable, that the contents of the frac can channel through areas of higher porosity and permeability and extend beyond the 230-foot radius that you're suggesting?
In certain formations it can, but you have to understand that Val Energy is doing something totally different than anybody in the state of Kansas. We are fracturing limestone below the Mississippi Chert Formation. The Chert has been explored for years. Range Oil drilled hundreds of wells in Cowley County, drilled 10 feet into the Chert and fracked the Chert with one-tack fracks in the 80s. We're working in an unconventional reservoir. And I don't want to get in the weeds here too deep, but general geology that's taught in all the colleges from the 1900s current is about conventional reservoirs. Conventional reservoirs are limestones, cherts, sands. We are working in a dense limestone below the Mississippi Chert, and it's a solid block of rock. But in that solid block of rock, there are micro channels and micro porosity pore spaces in the limestone. To look at it, it looks like a piece of concrete. And by fracking the lime below the chert, we are interconnecting or creating permeability in the limestone. And you can take this to an analogy. We're doing the same thing the horizontal people are doing in the Bakken and what they're doing in the shales in the Permian, the Eagle Ford, the Fayetteville, the Barnett. We are not working in conventional reservoirs. So you have to take your general knowledge of geology and throw it out the window. This is all about petrophysics of the rock formation. I have a petrophysics, mechanical engineered frac engineer that designs my fracs. We drilled 134 wells in Barber County, Kansas. We fracked every one of them. And he established the frac patterns by running microseismic surveys. And we're the only company that I know of in Kansas that's ran 3 of them. They're $100,000 a piece. When you're fracking one well, you have a microphone in an offset well that gives you the data information of where the frac is originating from and where it's going. I ran 2 in Barber County, and when I came to Cowley County in approximately 2012, I ran a microseismic survey approximately 3 miles straight south of this area. This gives you the planing beds of the formation, the azimuth that the planing beds are running on. And then while you're fracking the offset well, it's recording where that frac's going, and that establishes this.
That's very helpful. It may have put others to sleep, did not put me to sleep. I thought that's fascinating. I think that's important. So is the production you derive from the Mississippian, is it from the chert or from the lime?
The whole package is Mississippian from the top of the chert, 350 feet to the bottom of the chert. But we're working in the lower part of the reservoir. Now, there is height, there is depth, there is width of the frac. And the petrophysics of the rock determine where the frac goes, but by modeling it with the microseismic survey, we get a reading of how the planing beds are laid down, or the petrophysics of the Mississippian limestone. And we're probably connecting part of the chert and part of the lime. Now, a company came in that I had one of my drilling rigs running for in this general area, and they were fracking 175 feet of the limestone with 1 shot per foot and doing 40 tank fracs. They run every well because there's lenses within the limestone that we're producing. So we pick our perforations based off electric logs, and using petrophysics and the understanding that we have of unconventional reservoirs, we frack lenses within the limestone.
Okay, very well. You answered the general question I was asking you was how can you determine with precision what the direction, extent of the frac would be? And I think you answered that. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
What is the, I'm almost done with this for the benefit of my colleagues here. I'm not trying to actually put you to sleep this morning, but this is fascinating to me. Mr. Allen, before you frac this Mississippian, generally, can you tell me what is the porosity or the permeability pre-frac?
Dwight, my computer just blanked off. The battery went dead. I'm on Tom Rhodes's now.
Yeah.
It runs anywhere from 6-7% to as high as 20%, but in the lime, it's a lot denser. So it varies from location to location. I just drilled a well 2 weeks ago, and there's no chert present. We're strictly limestone from the top of the Mississippi and on down 300 feet. So it just depends. We work off the micro logs.
Okay.
We work off the porosity logs. But again, I don't design any of it. I send it to Denver, Colorado, to a frac engineer that is actually now working with all the major corporations. He's into the Colorado School of Mines doing studies with the students with Total Petroleum, Chevron, Exxon. He's working in the Gulf of Mexico. He's working in Canada. He's working in Kuwait. He's working in various places. The kid's very well qualified, but he is not a conventional reservoir frac engineer. He's a non-conventional or unconventional frac engineer. Fracking shales in the Permian, the Bakken, as well as offshore.
Yeah.
This is a level that Kansas has never seen. And I was fortunate enough to meet the young man and bring him along. And here we are today.
I appreciate you sharing that with us, Mr. Allen, because a 20% porosity is quite a bit to overcome. 6% less so, obviously. But you obviously have a formula here that works. You're producing, 32 barrels more or less from this particular well. So your track record sort of speaks to that. What is in terms of the lateral, how many feet do you generally perf in these wells?
It varies. I might have 40 feet in a well perforated in 3 or 4 different intervals. I may have 20 feet in 2 or 3 different intervals. Because we're working in the petrophysics of the rock, looking for these lenses within 300 feet. I've got wells perforated to the very bottom of the limestone, 50, 100 foot off the Kinderhook Shale. I'm coming up in the middle of it at 200 feet and perforating. I'm at the top perforating the top 50 feet. It just varies on what the rock presents to us and where the oil migrated through the natural fractures that are within the limestone. But unless you understand all this, you'll never figure out where the oil's at. And that's
Well,
why
again,
we
I thank you for
appropriated
sharing.
$300,000 into microseismic surveys to help lead us in the direction to gain the knowledge. The problem in Kansas is everybody wants to do what granddaddy and daddy did, and we're still doing it. And that's why we have a 2-barrel average across the state. And to correct you, Dwight, the Rogers #1 well is making 12-barrel oil a day. That's what we're arguing over right now. 12-barrel oil a day. Because they have the same profile as a shale well. They decline at 50–60% the first year. We drain that pod that we opened up with the frac, and 5 years from now, the well will probably be plugged. So you have to continually keep drilling to replace the reserves, because you're only draining a small portion of the total reservoir.
Okay, very good. Todd, I appreciate all that level of detail. For my colleagues, the only reason I was asking for the perforated interval is because I'm just trying to conceptually kind of marry the volume of fluids that are being used to frack this. Roughly, we're talking about 6,700 barrels of fluid with the perforations through which that fluid has to be transported out into the
Commissioner
formation.
Keen, you're breaking up a bit. I wonder if you've got a bandwidth issue. You might turn your camera off and see if that helps.
Did that help?
I think so.
Did that
I
help
think so.
any?
If you just go back about 10 or
Okay,
15
right.
seconds in what you were saying.
It probably helped visually, if nothing else. No, what I was saying was the main reason I was asking Mr. Allen about these different factors that went into the well completion technique he's using is to try to kind of consolidate the information that he's providing in a way that I can comprehend, which maybe may not be all that easy, but I just wanted to know laterally how many perforations is he trying to push? Basically 6,700 barrels of fluid. That's a lot of fluid into these wells, and yet confine the direction of the frac in a way that optimizes his recovery based upon the technique that he's using on this microseismic. That's the reason I asked that question. And probably you're grateful that I'm finished with that explanation as well. Mr. Allen, I really think you've answered the question I had, more so, frankly. It's been enlightening. Let me ask you who it is, which service company do you utilize to frack these wells?
Company out of Blackwell, Oklahoma, and down in Oklahoma called SPS Frac Company. And we're fracking at 60 barrels per minute. So the number of perforations, Dwight, has to be comparable to where we want to direct the frac and the rate we want to go out each perforation, because the diameter of the perforation controls the volume of fluid based on the pressure we're trying to overcome to break the rock. It's a very scientific approach to this.
Sure. Well, I appreciate very much your testimony. I was concerned about how you could, with precision, to tell us that the likely frac radius is not extending beyond the property line, and I think you've done that in some level of detail. I appreciate that. Chair French, I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, thank you. Well, I have no questions. Well, actually, let me follow up with one. Mr. Allen, if you could just elaborate a bit. I think I'll admit I'm not by trade an oil and gas guy. But I found some of what you were describing there fascinating. Could you just elaborate a bit on the technique and how I think it was your testimony that this is fundamentally different than what other folks are doing out there? And just maybe give me that again in layman's terms.
Well, typically to hunt for oil in a conventional reservoir, we went through the history of the 1900s where they used creekology by mapping the surface. And then when they found a discovery, then they drilled out regionally, north, south, east, and west, till they drilled to the edge of each of the pools of oil. The El Dorado pool, you could just name them off. Burton Oil Field in Reno County and Harvey County. Then in the 80s, we came along with seismic, and we had single point in the 50s and 60s, which gave us a regional look, and they looked for a high structure. We don't care if we're high or low, because the oil is trapped in the matrix of the reservoir below. The high or low doesn't make any difference. The high and low goes that oil's trapped in gas is trapped in the top of a conventional reservoir, oil's in the middle, and water's at the bottom. In our situation, our oil is not movable. It's trapped. It's locked into the concrete, the limestone. So as we moved into the 80s, we went to seismic. In the 2000s, we went to 3D seismic. And in 3D seismic, you find the anomaly and you drill, and then you either find production or you find a dry hole. In our area, what we're looking for is a regional area where oil has been found in the past. And there is a formation of unconventional reservoir below where the oil's been found. The old adage in the oil field is the best place to find oil is where oil's already been found, because the migratory patterns of oil coming up out of the Hugoton Bayment and the Gulf of Mexico clear up through the Nemaha Ridge all the way to Canada. So long and the short, we go into an area and we find where oil's been found before in upper lenses, whether it's the Mississippi Chert, whether it's a Stallnecker, whether it's the Layton Sand, which are all conventional reservoirs, and we explore below that. And we came into Cowley County, and a geologist in Wichita drilled a well and perforated the chert and made a ton of water, made no oil. And he was going to plug the well. So I got a copy of his electric log, sent him to my engineer in Denver, and I said, can we make a well out of this? He said, yes. Everybody in Kansas told me I was totally out of my mind. We pumped cement into the chert, the upper Mississippi. We shut off the water. We went down into the 300 foot of limestone and made a 30-barrel oil well. And nobody could believe we did it. But we're moving from what granddaddy and daddy did in Kansas for the last 100 years to what the Chevrons, the Exxons, the Pioneer Natural Resources, the XTOs, all the major scientific-driven oil companies are doing in other basins throughout the United States. So I brought that mentality and thinking to Kansas, knowing I couldn't go drill 50% dry holes, and that cost has to be expensed over your investment. Then you drill another 50% of the wells, and you get a handful of marginal wells that'll probably never pay out because they don't accumulate enough oil, and you get one or two good wells that's got to pay for the whole thing. And with Kansas being an old province, it's been drilled and re-drilled and re-drilled 3 or 4 or 5 times now. You're going to have to do something different if you're going to be in business. I went to Western Kansas and developed 100 and some barrel oil of daily production, but I drilled 50 wells to get it. It doesn't work. And it damn sure doesn't work at $55 oil. So when I did 134 wells in Barber County and never drilled a dry hole, I thought I'm onto something. I brought that same mentality to Cowley County because it's an oily basin in the Mississippi. And I was following up on what Range Oil had done in the 80s boom, drilling the top 10 feet of the Mississippi. They didn't drill the limestone. With button bits in that area, you couldn't drill the limestone. You were drilling at 10 foot to the minute, or 10 minutes to the foot. With PDC bits, polydiamond crystal bits, we drill it just like we drill the upper reservoirs, minute to 2 minutes to the foot. So I can cut that and make it economic.
All right, thank you, Mr. Allen. Did that spur any follow-on questions from the other commissioners?
It did, Chair French, with your indulgence. Can you hear me any better right now? If it gets to be staticky, I'll go off of the camera. Can you hear me all right, Mr. Allen?
We do
Yes.
hear you. Your video is a little choppy, but we do hear you right now.
And let's take care of that with the video here. Cut the video. There, try it again. Hopefully that helps. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mr. Allen, as a follow-on to the question and your I think very enlightening response to Chair French, this technique that you've pioneered and that you're now using, what is the resulting amount of water that you produce with the oil that you produce? Is it reduced as a result of this technique, or how would you contrast the water produced with the oil to the conventional completion techniques?
The water depletes because we're in an unconventional reservoir that does not have a water drive matrix to it. And the Cowley County wells are mimicking exactly what we did in Barber County. We start out at 400 barrel of water a day, pumping the frac back.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
Yeah.
large pumping units. We have a large capacity disposal wells handling the fluids. A year down the road, and once we get the frac load back, we're down to maybe 100, 150 barrel of water a day. But 5 years from now, we're pumping 2 barrel of oil and 2 barrel of water.
Interesting. Yes, very, very well. I think we could go on for a long time, but this is not the forum for it. Thank you, Mr. Allen, very much. It's been very enlightening, your testimony. Again, thank you, Chair French, for allowing a follow-up question.
Absolutely. All right. It looks like we will now allow an opportunity for redirect. Mr. Rhodes, do you have any need to redirect your witness? I know it's a little difficult with you both in the same room.
Well, yeah, I would like just to confirm that based upon the inquiries from the other commissioner and from Mr. Gates, that there is no exception to the experience of Val Energy with respect to the fracture envelope never exceeding 230 feet on either side of the wellbore, as Mr. Allen tested in his direct testimony. And I think that his testimony, his response to those inquiries and his testimony have confirmed that.
Was that a question to your witness?
Well, I just want to confirm that 230 foot from the wellbore is an absolute number that is consistent with all of your experience in completing these wells in the Mississippian line.
Yes, based on the knowledge that we gained from the microseismic surveys. To give you guys a little more depth on this, we really don't use geology once we get into a oily area. I have a template of the frac envelope, and I lay it out geologically and geographically on 160 acres or an 80 acres because I don't want to frac from one well into the next well. So the spacing that we drill on is spaced on my template of the frac envelope. So I drill the Rogers number 1, and then I move to Rogers number 2 because I need to separate the tanks that we open up with the frac.
All right. Any additional redirect, Mr. Rhodes?
No further questions. Chair Frank.
All right.
Chair French, if I could follow 2 more questions, and I'll promise not to do this again.
Oh, you may.
2 follow-on questions for you. Thank you very much, Todd. If you're given this technique, is there any rule of thumb that you use insofar as the distance between wells within the same lease or field?
Yes, because we're in old oil fields. We're in the Albright field about 7 or 8 miles straight south of this, and there's probably 40 or 50 wells drilled in that oil field that are drilled in the 60s and 70s. And some of those well bores are still there. Well, I don't want to frack into those old well bores. So with my template, I not only lay out the spacing between my new wells within the old wells, but I also have to lay out my templates to stay away from the old wells. But again, because of the 230 foot side to side, I can space my wells within 400 feet. But there's more to this that is proprietary information. And I want to keep that proprietary, and we're in a public forum here, but yeah, it's a whole different technique. It's a whole different science. It's a whole different application of technology that I've worked over 15 years now, 20 years to develop, and spent a hell of a lot of money getting there, but I'm reaching success with it in these economic times.
Yes. Well, again, thank you for sharing that. My final question, and I promise it will be, when you're fracking these wells, if what I understood was you're doing approximately 60 barrels per minute of injection. Is there a general rule of thumb as to the pressures that it takes to inject at that rate?
We see from 700 to as high as 1,800 pounds. It varies.
That would be consistently throughout the frac. Correct.
Well, there's more science in that, Commissioner. We run diverter material. So we'll throw a slug of diverter material in there to direct the frac in a different direction.
I got
because
you.
we're following the planing beds of the rocks. So we may be running along at 800 pounds and we see our pressures falling off. We'll dump a diverter material within the frac fluid at 60 barrel a minute. And when that hits bottom, we may spike to 3,000 pounds because we've shut off that fracture plane. And now we're directing a different fracture plane in the reservoir. Because what we're trying to do is interconnect every one of these little micro porosities and create our own permeability. And that's why when you drain the reservoir, you go from 400 barrel of fluid a day coming back at you down to 2 barrel a day 5 years later. We've drained the
Very good.
network.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we've drained the network of connectivity that we've created.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for your detail. Thanks to my colleagues for their indulgence. No further questions.
All right. We did cover a lot of ground. So I'll just briefly ask Mr. Gates, did that prompt any questions that you'd like to ask of the witness?
Well, I don't know. He's got a real understanding about operating a frac. But there's a lot of work been done around all over this country, the United States, in different areas. And like if you're gonna, get some information or ask for some help of people that knows, they got formulas they use in different spots. And I brought some of that stuff up here just where you could look at it, but you probably don't want to look at it. But they say, and I'll tell you something, that it really kind of gets your mind when you get to look at that, because what I wanted to do, I wanted to find out how much, everybody wants to know how far that goes out. Well, come find out, I was a little surprised. It's a lot better than I thought it was. Of course, this is a big frac. Of course, you got to remember when they come down in that country, when they first started, they put on as many as 45 500 barrel frac tanks and frac that country. And they spent millions and millions of dollars on it and drilled a lot of wells down there. And of course, that's way south of where you're at now. But they done that with penny stocks. Now you can buy a lot of them penny stocks for 5 cents on the dollar, you know. But you know, I know that Val's used to use 20 barrels anyway, 20 frac tanks. And over there, I thought it might be a little deeper. I didn't know. I just made up a deal and told them to figure this up. And it's all right down here, but you know, I'll tell you what, it's well, just like it says, you know, it takes to take a reasonable range for the fracture radius. With 22 500 barrel fracs, it'd be from 800 to 1,200 foot from the well bore, and use circular drainage approximation. Now here goes into them formulas. It's an A equals, you know, PI radius upside down V2 squad tech, then divided by 43,560. That's an acre, you know. And then the lower bound would be 800 foot radius, and they've done it the same way. And upper bound radius, but here's what I'm trying to get at down at the back. When you get down your final estimate with all this, I might be some trigger something, but they say approximately 46 to 104 acres of potential depletion area from your vertical limestone well using 11,000 barrels of frac fluid. And then it goes and then so you know, I had them figure up another one, but they didn't put all the details like it did on this one. But you can cut across and
Mr. Gates, can I ask, is this moving toward a question for Mr. Allen?
Well, yes, I think you're wrong on how far that frac goes away from that well bore. Because here on this here, this is just with the 15 barrels.
Can I have you put that in the form of a question to the witness, please?
Well, I think he can make a question out of anything he wants to out of this. Because I mean, the radius of they don't figure that they figure all this stuff at 40 acre spacings. Now, why would they do that? Well, you know, it might have been some of the deals like he's talking about. Maybe there's some old wells around there or something. But they didn't say it. But when you really get down, you're only going to complete about 31 acres.
All right, we'll just stop there. And Mr. Allen, if you'd like to, is there anything in there you'd like to respond to?
Oh, well, the fact, I guess, if you want to be real simple in the math, he's figuring his numbers off of 22 frac tanks, and we're talking 10 to 15 now with the frac technology we're using.
No, this here
volume's less. We're in the limestone. We're not in the chert. So we're in an unconventional reservoir where the frac envelopes that he's talking about are cherty limes, not dense limes. So I have no input to this.
All right, we're gonna just see, does that prompt the need for any additional commissioner questions?
No.
Okay. Any redirect necessary?
No, Chair French.
All right. With that, I believe we have covered all the ground we can with this witness. Mr. Allen, you may step down virtually. And we will now move to, well, let's see, we've been going a little over an hour. Let's give everybody let's take a 10-minute break, and we will return at 10:25. So we are off the record and in recess until 10:25.
Thank you.
Hey, ma'am, you can.
All right, I have 10:25 on my end. It looks like we've got everybody back in the virtual room here. So we are now back on the record in this proceeding and ready for staff to call its witness.
Thank you, Chair French. Commission staff calls Jake Eastis.
All right, good morning, Mr. Eastis.
Good morning.
Will you please raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed, Mr. Marsh.
Thank you. Please state your full name and by whom and what capacity you are employed.
Jacob Eastis. I'm a professional geologist for the KCC at 266 North Main Street, Suite 220 in Wichita, Kansas.
Are you the same Jake Eastis who caused to be filed in this docket testimony consisting of 8 pages and 2 exhibits on September 5th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have any corrections to make to your testimony?
No.
Do you swear the answers contained in your pre-filed testimony are true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, staff moves for Mr. Jake Eastis' pre-filed testimony and exhibits to be admitted into the formal record.
No objection.
All right, hearing no objection, the reference testimony and exhibits will be admitted.
Thank you. Staff tenders the witness for cross-examination.
All right, we will move first to operator applicant. Mr. Rhodes, do you have any questions of this witness?
Just very few.
Okay.
Chair French.
Please proceed.
Mr. Eastis, in your pre-filed testimony, you mentioned the absence of a notice of intent to drill form with the application, and I just want to confirm that that's been furnished with the pre-filed rebuttal testimony of Mr. Allen as Exhibit D in this case. And I want to make sure that you're satisfied that the application for the well location exception is complete. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And I also want to confirm from your testimony that the Mississippian frac influence for the Rogers 120 well will not exceed 230 feet from the wellbore. Is that right?
I agreed with that statement. Correct.
Okay. And have you rendered an opinion recently in another case concerning a Mississippian completion on a well location exception that the fracture in that case would not exceed 150 feet? Is that right? This would be in docket number 25 CONS 3342 CWLE. That would be the Darrell Oil Company #1 Drummond well location exception.
Good. So can you repeat the question?
Well, wasn't it your opinion in that case that a similar frac treatment of that well that was for which a well location exception was sought would not extend more than 150 feet from the well bore?
That was at the time, that was in that instance, yes, that was one of the parameters that we came up with. Yes.
Okay. And that exception in that case was granted, was it not?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Gates, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yeah, I do. One of them is the way I understand it, when you drill a well, you got to put up signs out, how to get to the rig. And and anybody needs to go out there, but they never put no signs out on the rig. I never even knew. I seen that drilling up there, but I didn't know they was doing what they was doing. What I mean. I seen the rig move. I said, well, they got that drilled, and went by the next day and was standing up, drilling again. I said, well, they must have had a breakdown or something. But on this, the big deal is, Advantage, they drove their stake, but somebody moved that stake, and they moved it by hand. It didn't fly out there, Do you have any idea who did that?
Do I?
I just asked if anybody knew who did that. Mr. Allen, he leased that ground off of Rogers, and Rogers didn't even own none of the mineral or deal on there. And I never was ever let known about this. I don't know what you've told them other lease mineral owners mineral owners. But I'll tell you what, they're madder than hell at me. And I'd like to know what I did wrong, if you can tell me. But here's another thing I want to talk to you about.
Hold on. I think you've asked the witness a question. Let's let him respond if he has any response.
Good deal.
Just so I'm clear, the question was if I knew who moved the stake.
Who moved the stake?
No, I don't.
They didn't stake it wrong.
All right. I believe the witness said no.
Yeah.
Move to your next question.
Well, I want to tell you something. I've read a lot of not a lot, but I read about this corporation commission, and it's a fine deal. It's something the country's got to have. It's the best thing in the world for the energy. It's the best thing in the world for this country. But one thing they said, the question I had, was if you drill a well in the wrong place, what should you do? And they said you plug it and cement it and drill it in the right place. Well, this, but this, these signs goes out there and everything tells you about where this section deal, that is where people can find the rig. But the Corporation Commission says 330 feet, anything below 2,000 feet, and they're in that area where this well drilled. And they don't say nothing about sections. They say they want 330 feet. Now, they don't say 250. They don't say 280, 290, 300. They don't even say 329. They say 330. And I had it measured, and when you get all the mistakes chopped out of it, we're 258 foot from that. Now, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the 330, or we're going to talk about the section? They've done the sections. Of course, that can be manipulated. I mean, I don't have to tell you that, you know that. But what do you think about that, sir?
What's the exact question, I guess?
Well, you just mentioned a while ago that you had some wells that was closer stuff. I guess it's whatever a guy can get away with. But I want to tell you something. This is supposed to be when you move that stake. That's kind of the unforgivable sin, And we're not talking about sections. We're talking about feet to the end to the property line. And they say 330. This deal here does. Corporation Commission. They don't ever say nothing less than that. I mean, that is an immortal lock, edged in rock. That's the way I understand it. Now, what about that? Why can't it can't be no two ways? I don't think.
we allow wells to be closer, drilled closer than the 330 foot with the application of a well location exception. And they may or may not be approved, based on, what's presented in their application. If they have submitted everything that's required of the well location exception and, all the parameters are met, then we allow wells to be drilled closer than the 330 foot.
Well, why are you saying there's some reason you drilled this closer than 330 for a reason?
For whose reason? Or
your reason? You said for a reason.
Based off of their application, everything that they submitted, I believe it was closer in Val's application to avoid a 50-foot gully, or
you're talking about for the shale pit or the well, I'll tell you what Val can do. That section to the east of this section, they had that whole section, and they went out in the middle of it, and they dug them a slush pit, and they hit some of the ungodliest lime you ever seen. It looked like to me, they said it was 4 foot. It looked like to me it was 5 or 6 foot thick. But anyway, it didn't work because they didn't get that thing to produce, the way I understand it. But they was going to take all that and use that one pit to do all their your well cuttings and that's going to be the slush pit. Well, and there on my place, they drilled a well right beside a spring, and the water's terrible over there anyway. But that guy called Krieger, whatever his name, works for you guys. He come out there, and they put that slush pit north quite a ways, and they pumped all that into that reserve pit up there. And I mean, they can take that thing a mile if they want to. So he had plenty of places to put that slush pit. They could put it north. I mean, they could put it south, east, or west. North wouldn't have been no good because you have to go over that hill, But that is that's the truth. He can put it anywhere he wanted to, and he does it. And he's pretty smart at that stuff.
Are you referring to the?
I think I'll go ahead and object and just.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a question, but I would say it's outside the scope of Mr. Easton's testimony.
Yeah, I'll sustain the objection. I don't know that there was a question there, but Mr. Easton, if there's anything you would like to respond to there, I'll allow it, but I don't know that there was anything. I'm not exactly sure what the question was.
I was just going to ask if he was referring to the reserve pit that's accompanies every drilling rig.
Well, they have to have one, right?
Yeah. I was just asking if that's what you were referring to as the location of the reserve pit.
But you asked me, Tom. He told me that they'd done that because they didn't have room to do that. Well, if they'd done it, who done it? Or that's a man-made deal. And how do you feel about that? Do you think I mean, they can put a.
We're concerned with the location of the well head, not
the well bore, well head,
the well bore, not the reserve pit.
I know, but that's what I brought that with, sir. Is that's the reason that stake had been moved. That's what Tom kind of insinuated in his talk. Well, you know that's wrong. And I think Tom knew it.
I believe they had to move the well bore closer to avoid the so it was not encroaching upon a steep incline, so they could eventually complete the well and initially drill the well so they could get the rig there.
Well, that's absolutely wrong, because they could put it in where they wanted to. And if you look at the map, I think you agree with me. They had 100 places they could put it around there. Put that flow line right to it. It don't matter where it's 10 foot or 100 foot or where it is. They've done it again on that place just behind my mailbox up there. They moved that sluice pit, so it can be done. And
All right, Mr. Gates, any additional questions for the witness?
well, yeah, there is some questions. There's yeah, it says here the reserve pit or lack of room that moved the rig stake south. Is that right? Well, that you're trying to say it is, but it's a made up story. It didn't have to be. Now, you go over here, and it said there's lots of work to make a reserve pit because of the legal work you put into it. I know it does. I know that costs a lot of money. I know, artificial liner and 3 or 4 foot limestone to pop out there, and they had to clean it every day. Is that right?
Objection.
You're the one who told me that. Is that right?
Sorry, Kelsey, did you make an objection there for outside the scope?
I did.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything about, I just searched Jake's testimony for anything about reserve.
I'm talking
pits. I
about
didn't see
Tom.
anything, so.
Tom Rhodes.
Yeah, so we're questioning Mr. Eastus. Mr. Eastus, if you have any personal knowledge in response to that, you can answer. If it's not something you can testify to, feel free to say so.
I don't believe that's something I can testify to.
Okay.
Well, can I ask, when can I ask Tom about this?
Well, we already had Mr. Allen up.
I'm not talking about Alan. I'm talking about Tom, the lawyer.
He's not testifying here today.
Well, will he ever be testifying again here today or some other day?
No.
Well, it ain't like he told me here. Now, say out of all the wells that were drilled 2 miles south of Rogers' well, has no problem with he said they told me that again. He said they had no problem with them wells. And if the stake was moved 332 to 258, that's where it was moved. It was done by hand. So who moved it? That's what I'd like to. But I guess nobody wants to take responsibility for that.
Yes, I believe Mr. Eastus already answered in the negative to that question. Is that correct?
Correct.
Negative. What do you mean negative? Explain that.
He said no.
Oh yeah, who moved that? Yeah. Well, when this well was drilled, it's kept quiet by not disclosing any signs or notices, and no exit to the location of the road. And I'd like to ask you, is it supposed to be out there?
What is supposed to be out there?
Well, it's, you know, they have the, disclosing the signs or notices of exit or location of where the well is.
I believe that's outside the scope of my review of this application.
Who around there would be in their scope?
Is it signs for the completed well or the drilling?
The drilling when they start to start commencing, and it's there till it's drilled.
I can't really testify on that. I believe that's possibly somebody else at the KCC would be more knowledgeable on that.
Yeah, but is there somebody around there? Is that way? Do you know anybody around there as you're sitting beside there or looking through that does?
I can't testify on that with confidence.
Well, when this well was drilled, it was kept, quiet. Non-Val Energy employees working, they asked that question. Was there any Val employees? Tom was one of them. So this is all Tom's deal. Employees working at the time of the drilling. Nobody ever up there when I was up there. I did not, he said, I did not know there was a drill. I didn't know there was a drill scheduled. I never received notice or saw any sign. But I need to be talking to Tom instead of you. I'm sorry. Can that be done? Can I talk to Tom, the lawyer for Val?
Mr. Rhodes did not file pre-filed testimony in this proceeding, so he will not be called.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. I didn't understand it that way. I'm sorry about that, and I really am. But anyway, he when he told me about this liner and all that stuff, well, he was wrong about that, and he knew better. But I tell you what, I looked that up, and it showed that. Of course, I can't remember all you guys' names. It showed that it's on the I hate these papers. Hate them. It says here, and I mean this is all lawful, but it did catch my eye, and you might be able to know something about this. They said on this what do you call that shale pit that made? They said it was I looked it up and it said it's supposed to have a artificial liner in it. And I know them people just north that live there, they got one of the nicest springs you ever seen in your life. And of course they're kind of haywire about it. They just love it to death. But it didn't put no artificial liner in there like Tom said. It said it was a pit lined if a plastic liner is used. And they said, no, they put a clay bottom in there. Well, I suppose a clay bottom would be probably as good as a liner, but it wouldn't be a liner would be 100%. But I know one thing it'd do, it'd be giving Val quite a break, in which, everybody needs every break they can, but, he got it done a lot cheaper.
All right, Mr. Gates, I believe we've given some time for commentary. Do you have any any questions for Mr. Eastus before we move forward?
I just can't understand. I'm still really puzzled why he claims that that little shale pit had to be moved the whole rig. He had 100 places to put it with that flow line. You can go anywhere with it. You went to the highway with it if you wanted to. And I believe that's the frack deal. You know, he's a geologist. This thing here shows that the deal that they made up for me shows that thing would be, when they got done, it'd be 30 to 8. There we go. Yeah. The typical translates to an early life effective depletion. Drawdown footprint on the order of 30 to 80 acres common, 80 to 160 acres possible if the rock is very, what do they say? Very severe permeability and porosity and compressibility. Of course, that's right. And net pay effective height, structure half length, that's one on each side, you know, how far each wing extends, time on production rate, depletion grows with time, boundaries, faults, pinch outs, water, and so forth. So the clean way to talk acres is by effective drainage radius. And they took that into acres by dividing that over 43,560, that's square feet to an acre. Here are handy anchors. Yeah, here are handy anchors. Radius of 610 feet. Classic 40 acre spacing radius. In other words, you tore up 31 acres, what it amounts to. Well, 31 acres is a hell of a lot more than 10 acres. And your well's pretty close too. And then you said it don't make no difference. And I want to tell you guys something. You know, you told me, Tom told me I had to prove everything. How do you guys prove anything? You don't prove nothing to me. Everything's tied down for 2 years. I mean, you know, you can say Jesus Christ moved that stake, and I might believe you, and I might not. But I'll tell you, this thing smells, and it smells bad, and it's awful, and it's awful embarrassing. And I'll tell you one thing, I don't know how you got them mineral interest people stirred up like you did, but you did. And I'm not very happy about that.
All right, Mr. Gates, I think we've got your position. Unless you have any final questions for Mr. Eastus.
Well, I probably do. I probably ain't smart enough to ask him the right ones, but I do appreciate you for putting up with this stuff. I know it's. I imagine you hear some of this stuff every day because a lot of people aren't satisfied. I know you do. And I apologize on my part. I hate it. I hate working anybody.
You're certainly fine. That's why we're here. It's called a hearing, so we can hear everyone. So that's the point of this. Well, we will move at this time for any questions from the commissioners of this witness. Commissioner Keene, I see you've gone off mute. Do you have questions for Mr. Eastus?
Thank you, Chair French. Jake, I've read through all your pre-filed testimony. I think your position on this thing is absolutely clear. I have no questions of you. Thank you.
Commissioner Keither, any questions?
No, I agree with Commissioner Keene.
Jake, I don't think this question's in your department, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It may be. I just kind of, Mr. Allen gave us a lot of information about the construction of this well, and it was pretty interesting, but also, I guess I'll admit it's always a little concerning to me when somebody says, we're doing something nobody's ever done here. This is not what the industry does. We're taking things from other places. you know, I hate to admit it, but that raises some alarm bells for me, even if it sounds very scientific. Um, and feel free to tell me this wasn't in your review, you know, this was in the well construction, but you know, what's your response to that? Is staff comfortable with the design of the well and the operation and production of the well? Any other response? Is that everything he said consistent with your review of the application?
Yes, everything's consistent. I mean, it is a different approach. You know, it's the most similar you know, that I've reviewed are the horizontal Mississippian applications and those well completions. It's, you know, slightly similar to that in some regards. They're just still, you know, drilling it and completing it in a vertical fashion.
So no concerns on your end.
No.
Okay.
Hey,
Hold on just a moment, Mr. Gates. That
Yes.
we'll come back to you after some additional questioning. I think that does answer my question. Commissioner Keen or Keither, any follow-ups?
Yes, if I could, Chair French.
Yes, go ahead.
It was a fair question. Todd, is it fair for me to say that basically most of the procedures, as I understand it, that we utilized in connection with this number 1-20 Rogers well are all pretty conventional. The way the well was
Commissioner Keen,
drilled,
your audio
well,
is breaking up again. We might just have you turn your camera off again. Thank you.
there we go. Yeah, is that better?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
I want to try to cut to the chase. Is it fair to say that in most aspects, the procedures that were utilized by the operator in conjunction with the number 120-20 Rogers well were really somewhat conventional? That is the drilling, the equipping, the thing that was a bit unconventional, and they're using perforations. That's the mechanism to get from the well bore out to the formation. The thing that is unique here, and it seems like it is possibly almost revolutionary, is the fracturing technique that's being used and some of the factors incidental to the fracturing itself. Given the nature of the well design, even that being novel, do you, in your judgment, believe that that would create any environmental harm whatsoever?
No.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair French. That was it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was helpful.
Huh.
All right. I know Mr. Gates has got a follow-up question. Mr. Gates, why don't we go ahead and let you, or it's a little out of order, but I think we'll let you ask your follow-up question and then we'll let Mr. Marsh conclude with redirect. So Mr. Gates, did you have a follow-up question based on the commissioner's questions?
Yes, I did. This deal, you know, you're playing this down way down, but I want to tell you something. You know, I think the way this thing looks, I'll tell you what I think this thing really needs. I think we need a directional survey of that well. Jerk that tubing out there and find out where that bit is, where the end of that hole is. You know, it's kind of like cockroaches where you find one, you know, sometimes you find more.
Mr. Eastus, I'm not sure that was in the form of a question, but if you'd like to respond, I will allow it.
I believe they do a directional survey when they're drilling the well to just figure out the deviation of the vertical well itself. And the well completion report and they've testified that it's not a deviated well, and, you know, through their completion reports and their testimony.
Well, I think it needs it. And there's a lot of ways, you know, about these deals. I mean, there's a bucket full of them. But, you know, and then that is well, I can't ask you that because you're not qualified. I mean, you're not supposed to be in that end of it. Well, the way I understand, we'll have another one of these, won't we? Would you know that? Another meeting? Like the 20th?
That's outside
you-
outside any scope that I'd have. Another hearing or meeting, somebody else would have to answer that at the KCC.
Yeah, I don't believe that there is another hearing scheduled. I believe this is the only hearing that is scheduled unless my counsel corrects me, Mr. Myers. You've probably got a closer eye on the procedural schedule than I do.
Well, I got it on the phone where it be the 18th. I mean, the 18th and the 20th would be another hearing.
No, it is. Mr. Myers has confirmed to me in a message. It is just today.
Well, there's a lot of things we haven't discussed about this. So how are we going to do that?
All right. Was that your final question for Mr. Eastus then?
No, I'd like to. They you know, with that, there's some of that table showing the drainage area sizes and, you know, how many acres and all that. And I'll tell you something about it that, well, I don't have to tell you nothing about it. You know all about the fracks, but you know, but there's other people know something about them too, you know. So what are you trying to tell me? Where are we at?
Well, the evidence has all been filed into the record. This is the opportunity to ask folks questions. If you have any more questions of Mr. Eastus, now's your opportunity.
I don't have.
Okay.
I don't have none because he can't answer what I want to ask.
That's fine. Then we'll move along. Yeah, I don't suspect that elicited any more commissioner questions, so I will just turn to Mr. Marsh. Do you have any redirect for your witness?
No, Chair French.
Okay. And I'm assuming no need for recross from Mr. Rhodes.
No, Chair French.
Okay, very well. We will complete this witness. Mr. Eastus, we thank you for your time and your testimony today. You may virtually step down.
Thank you.
All right. I think we will go ahead and start with our final witness, and that is you, Mr. Gates. Because you don't have an attorney, I am going to call you up to the stand, and I'm going to swear you in, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions just to make sure we get the testimony that you filed, get that on the record. So I'm going to begin by swearing you in. If you would please raise your right hand for me.
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
You bet. Yes, I will. It'll be the truth.
And let's see. Let me find your testimonies here. I got to find the dates. All right. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Bill Gates or William Gates. And
are you the same William Gates that filed direct testimony, pre-filed direct testimony on August 25th, 2025, and pre-filed direct and rebuttal testimony on September 16th, 2025?
so. Yes.
And is that testimony still true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, best of my knowledge, it is.
All right. Are there any objections to admitting Mr. Gates' pre-filed testimony into the record?
None, Chair French.
Hearing none, the reference testimonies will be admitted. All right. Let's turn to cross-examination of this witness. Let's see, what does my schedule say here? Mr. Rhodes, do you have any questions of this witness?
Briefly, Chair French, I'd just like to ask a couple questions concerning the protesters' testimony, if I could.
Okay, please proceed.
Mr. Gates, yeah, I want to confirm that you own 1/4 of the mineral rights in the west half of the southeast quarter of Section 20, Township 32 South, Range 6 East. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm supposed to own that. Yes.
Okay, and that's for a limited term that's going to end on September 10th, 2046. Is that right?
It'll end quicker than that for me because I won't live that long.
Okay. Do you know whether the other 3/4 of the mineral rights owners have leased their interest to Val Energy?
Well, that's kind of funny, you know. You told me they had, and I went down there to the it must have been turned up a little. I went down there to the courthouse, and it didn't listed down there as leased, but they told me that one boy, I finally got him to talk to me, and he said that he said that they he wanted to know what was going on, and I said, well, I'd kind of like to know myself, but I got see, what was that question you asked me again about him, or what you asked about what now?
I just wanted to make sure you were aware that the other 3/4 of the mineral rights associated with that 80 acres.
Yes, they belong to one family members. Yeah, and I believe the woman that had them, she might have passed away. She was really, really sick.
Okay, and were you approached by Val Energy about leasing your 1/4 mineral rights?
Yes, it was.
And did you execute a lease in favor to Val Energy?
I said, well, then that's when you told me that he had leased it, or you had leased Val Energy leased it off of Chris Rogers for 2 years. And I said, but I couldn't lease it until his lease ran out. Well, come find out they don't even have a lease down there at the courthouse that I could find. Now, can you straighten that out, or what does that mean?
I'm not here to testify, Mr. Gates. I just want to know what you know about the leasing situation on the 80 acres that you have a 1/4 of the minerals on.
Yes, I do. I own it. What I know about it? I own 1/4, and they own 75%.
And did you lease? You have not leased your 1/4 interest to anybody, right?
No, I haven't. How could I? I don't think I could. It's clouded, isn't it?
What? Let's move on. How will production from the Rogers 120 well cause waste in your estimation?
Waste?
Yes, sir.
And you mean dollars in waste, or property damage? What are you talking about, waste? Just define that to me.
I'm talking about waste of hydrocarbon resources.
Well, I'm talking about the mineral, the people that own the minerals. The way the corporation commission operated, they give them a free 1 year flush production.
And that wasn't that based upon an application to drill the Rogers 120 well that the commission approved?
Well, I don't know about that. But it might not be. It seems like it's been a year, but I don't know. But I don't know. But here's the deal. Them boys are pretty tricky. And I'll tell you something. They're smart. And I'll tell you something, this commission up here can't handle them, I'll tell you that. I mean, they can make whatever it wants to. They got a lot of lines under the ground, and you don't know where all them lines are going. That's just like, it's just like there's a guy, Joe, he worked for, I don't know if he still works for him or not. I told him, I said, Joe, I said, it's the only place I've ever been. They don't have a gas separator separates gas from liquids. And then, then a gun barrel separates oil from water. And that ain't nothing in the world any better than that in the world. And it's kind of hard to fool with. Well, see, they ain't got that deal. And I'll tell you another thing, they take a lot of, they take oil when they let them sometimes them tanks got to be clean when they do. Well, they'll take a half load of oil with them. Now, what else you want to ask me?
What do you think a proper outcome to your protest is going to be, Mr. Gates?
I don't think it'll be here. Oh, you'll have one, but I don't think I'll sign nothing. Because I heard a lot of people say that, told me that they won't mount to nothing. I don't know whether there's a lot of people that don't have much respect for the Kansas Corporation Commission, and I tell you, there's a reason for that.
Okay. In your pre-filed testimony that you filed on August 25th of 2025, you submitted as Exhibit F an independent industry study on frac radius and an example.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't see, but the reason, I hate to butt in like this, but I couldn't do what I wanted to do because, see, I couldn't get no information. And because you got locked in closed up for 2 years. That's why I say you can say anything you want to because you don't have to prove it. I mean, who proves it? That's just like Tom, that's just like when I called you and I said, Tom, the first 2 envelopes, of course, we get a lot of junk mail, and I got a wife too that's, bless her heart, love her to death, but she gets a little distort, but I said, Tom, could you replace them two first envelopes? You know what you told me? Said I didn't send you no envelopes. Well, you lied. And I can figure out there's some other stuff here that way. Now, that's why I never called you again.
That independent study that you presented with your pre-filed testimony in August was based upon 22 frac tanks using 500 barrels of fluid each, or 11,000 barrels of fluid that you suggest was going to result in depletion of the protesters' land, of your land, as a result of fracking the Rogers 120 well. And this was repeated again in your pre-filed direct and rebuttal testimony that was filed on September 16th, 2025.
Well, I'll tell you what that amounts to. That first deal was just an example. I know when Val fracked my well there, he's got a real nice well on me. It's been real good for him. And he had 20 frac tanks and he only got 10 of it in. Everybody was about had a heart attack. You see, a frac goes into the lime, and if the lime takes the water too much, it'll drop that sand and then you'll screen out. They screened out at 10 tanks. and it made a beautiful well. But over there, I didn't know how deep it was, and I thought it might be lower over there, and I didn't know how wild things had got. And it's history that everybody you talk to says Val, they overfrack all their wells. That's what they say. And so anyway, I made a pretty big frack. Well, I guess I made it too big, but I told them it'd be 3,500, so I thought it might be lower. I've said 22 frac tanks, 500 barrels, which is 11,000. But on that deal, the final estimate, and I'll give you, you got it up there. If not, I'll give you this. The final estimate, approximate 46 to 104 acres of potential depletion area for the vertical limestone, well using 11,000 barrels of frac fluid. And they say that's an awful big frac fluid, but you know, and it even can communicate with the other wells they drilled to the west.
Well, Mr. Gates, based upon the ACO1, the well completion form that Val Energy filed for the Rogers 120 well, which you have.
I have that.
Yes, that was submitted with Mr. Allen's testimony.
Okay.
And based upon that that form, only 450 barrels of fluid from 15 frac tanks were used for the for fracking the Rogers 120 well. That's only 6,750 barrels of fluid.
Okay.
Does that change your estimate based upon what you produced?
Yeah, but you can't prove that.
Well, it's a matter of record, Mr. Gates.
I know, but you know, records can be changed before it gets there. There's a lot of little pipes over there. There's a lot of stuff going on over there. And I want to tell you something. He's hooked up with a pretty wild creature. That's that Chris Rogers. He's hooked up with a real deal.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion, but do you have any facts or evidence to back that up?
Yeah, I do, because I've been in front of him before.
In front of who?
In front of Chris Rogers. He's attorney, you know. I've had a lot of other deals I can't talk to you about, but it's, you know.
Okay. Well, my question, Mr. Gates, is does the fact that a considerable lesser amount of fluid was used to frack the Rogers 120 well change your estimate of the influence that fracture treatment would have on your Mississippian oil reserves?
Yes. And you know how many barrels used?
According to the ACO1 form, it was 6,750 barrels.
You told me 15 barrels, 15 frac tanks.
15 frac tanks. That's right. At 450 barrels per tank.
Well, you know, they suck that out of there. You didn't leave 50 barrel in there. You shaved that off too. That's the way I believe.
Okay. Well, do you have any evidence to support that?
Well, I do. I've seen them frack wells before, and it comes out. You know, they get that water out there.
Do you believe that based upon the information that Val Energy submitted in connection with completion of the Rogers 120 well, that the fracture treatment of that well will extend into your mineral rights, into the Mississippian reserves on your land?
It's already overlapped. It had to, and I'd like to have. That's why I'd like to have that directional survey on it. I think you should. I think this Kansas Corporation should ask for it.
And what would the directional survey do to influence the frac envelope on the Rogers 120 well?
Well, you see, a bed will climb to the high side, and it'll take off. It'll take off towards the high side.
Okay. Let's get back to the surveys you provided. What,
Mr. Rhodes, could I just ask you, I think you indicated you only had a couple questions for Mr. Gates. How much longer do you think you'll have?
I've got 2 questions.
Okay. All right, go forward.
Okay. Mr. Gates, why did you commission 2 surveys of the well location for the Rogers 120 well?
Because I couldn't, I given this as just an example. I didn't know. Well, after your letter, you told me that they use 15 tanks. Frac tanks when they fracked it. So I shot that back to them and they give me the deal on it. I got it right here. Right here. This one right here. And they told me, right there it is. And they come back, they told me, okay, acres, you can't solve acres depletion from the frac liquid volume alone, but we can put a reasonable bracket on it. And first you pumped volume, 15 frac tanks, 500 barrel, 757,500 barrel. 1 acre depleted usually means this bases the effective drainage of the well and pressure drop, production influence reaches, and I can't read that on the bottom there. Which, they got a strip across there. Anyway, it says which washed out within creating conductive length. Creating conductive length. If you tell me 3 details, I can tighten the estimate a lot. Reply with formation, rock type. You've mentioned Mississippi limestone before. Confirm if that's this one, and it was. Then they said is it one stage or multiple stages. Verticals are often. That's kind of surprising. It said verticals are often 1 to 3 treatments, and I took that as breaks in the sand, the porosity, and I don't know whether there was two breaks in that sand like there was over at my place, or was only 1, or there's 5. And then they said any nearby well spacing 40 acre to 80 acre nearest offset distance. Well, that's a way, and Kansas needs to get that done. That's really messed up. The way these wells, they just tear up they just cover so much area. And if you have it, first 30 to 90 day oil, water, gas rates, even rough, that's the fastest way to infer to realistic drainage radius. And it's they got radius of 1,320 feet, and of course they got it, that's a quarter of a mile, 160 acres. Radius of 1,980 feet, 3/8 of a mile, that's 283 acres. What your frac suggest, rule of thumb range, a single vertical slickwater frac at 2,500 feet with 7,500 barrel total fluid often lands in a ballpark figure half length of roughly 300 to 700 feet. Varies a lot with rock, link off, and propane, PROPPANT design. That typically translates to an earlier life effective depletion. In other words, the more you get, the more it depletes. Drawdown footprint on the order of 30. They got that signet sign, the 80 acres common. And
Mr. Gates, if can I interrupt you? My question has to do with the surveys and not with the fracture analysis. Okay.
Yeah.
My question has to do with why you commissioned 2 surveys, and I think what you're indicating to me is that, or to us, is that the second survey was necessitated by the fracture analysis. Is that right?
No, the second survey was because you told me how much. See, I didn't know how they fracked it. I just I had to make up something on the first one. This was actual facts because you told me they'd use 15 fracks. frac tanks to frac this well on a slick frac. And this is the deal they sent me back on. And this is what it should have done.
Okay.
And
My question-
they got formulas that they use that in that particular county of Cowley County. And this might have come out of California. I mean, this thing's there's a lot of stuff going on.
What porosity and permeability figures did you give them to include in their analysis?
Well, the porosity and permeability would be wells that they already got the history of around there. But they ain't gonna get the history of this for 2 more years. Looks like to me, because they didn't, nobody else got it. They might have it. I don't know. I never asked them. It didn't, this is pretty wild. This is pretty dang wild. I'll tell you that.
So again, which survey are we supposed to believe that you obtained? One says the well is 258 feet from your boundary. Another one says it's 276 feet.
Okay, that's what I wanted you to understand. That's what I wanted you to understand. Here's what happened. When they first come out there, you can't see these. I wish you was in here. Have you got my deal up there?
Which deal are you referring to?
Whatever what it turned into you, that all of the plats and everything. See this advanced elevations that they give to the courthouse. Well, that's just handmade. Looks like you just took a base and then printed all this in there, wrote that in there with a pencil, wrote them things in there. Now that's pretty wild. And that is 330 foot, see? But that's when they do bisections. Well, then when I found out that it was closed, I go back down there again, and they give me, it says county appraiser, and got the stamp right on it. And there's the boundary. And they got that stake 330 feet from their line. But their line is wrong. I mean, the stake is right, but the well's in the wrong place. And then you come back over here, and then that's what I got, Smith and Oaks. They come in there and they had all of advanced elevations. They had the whole everything in their hand. They done it just like they did. I threw a fit. I said, hell, that ain't right. You ain't doing what I asked. They said, this is the way it's going to be done. So that's the way they done it. And they come out with 276 feet instead of 330. And I think that's 54 foot short, isn't it? If I remember. Yeah. Well, I go down there to Smith and Oaks, right there, and I said, I want to tell you something. I said, why in the hell didn't you do what I asked you to do? I said, I asked you to measure that from my property line to that well bore. And they said, we do sections. I said, that ain't what I asked you to do. I asked you to measure. Well, they done it. They got it figured out. And then after that, It's 258 feet. It's all right here. And there's a little old stamp, Chris, whatever his name is, professional surveyor, 12/3/24. Then I come down here and you sent me a letter and said they think one survey ought to be enough. It is, but this is a survey you got to use because corporation says they don't care where your rig is. They want that well bore 330 foot from the line. And it ain't that way. It's 258 foot from the line. Yes, that sounds. Don't you think that ought to raise a flag?
Well, but Mr. Gates, assuming your surveys are correct,
Some of them.
are you willing to accept the recommendation of the KCC staff to reduce the allowable to 84%?
I'll tell you what that's almost disgusting. You may have something like that. That's disgraceful. That is insulting my intelligence is what little I got. I want to tell you, what would that mean? You can make that well produce anything you want it to make. You're not fooling with little kids now. These people are strong and they got guts and they're smart and they're dangerous. I got another big mess with them down below, and you told me, you remember when you told me, and that's right, you told me, you said, well, out of all the other wells, and there's lots of them, you said from there, you told me out of all the wells that were drilled, even 2 miles south from Rogers 120, there's been no problem with spacing. And that's what you told me. And just happened there on my one. Do you remember that?
I don't remember ever having a conversation with you, Mr. Gates, about it.
It was in your letters. You sent me a lot of them letters. I remember it. Well, I want to tell you something. There is other wells drilled too close.
I'm sure that's right, but the focus here is on the Rogers 120.
Not really.
I'm asking you if you would be willing to accept the commission's recommendation or the
All
staff
right, I think
recommendation.
that one's been asked. I don't think we're getting answers that are responsive to the questions at this point. But Mr. Rhodes, I want to be fair. I mean, you're the applicant. You got an opportunity to ask questions. Do you have any more direct questions that you hope to ask?
No, Chair French, those are the two that I had remaining when you asked the last time. So
all right,
this concludes our testimony.
Let's move forward then. Staff, do you have any questions of this witness?
No, Chair French.
All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Keither, I'm seeing a shaking of the head. Commissioner Keen?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. I do not have any questions as well. I think at this point, we will conclude with the witness then. Mr. Gates, we thank you for your testimony today.
There's other stuff that I'd like to tell you.
Well, we've got your pre-filed testimony and we've got your cross-examination. Is there anything that you were asked today that you feel like you need to follow up on?
Yeah, there's one thing here, just like, see.
Okay, briefly.
All right. Tom said, nobody there's a lot of them wells that's too close, but I'll tell you what, the one I'm talking about was me. They drilled a well on me that I got a well on this side and they got a well and they drilled a well on the other side and it's 71 yards from my line. And they put a disposable, it's in a valley and they put a submergible pump on the son of a bitch where you can't see the pump. The rocker pump. That's one deal. And the other deal is when they come in and drill my wells, they drill number one well, and it was a nice well. And then they went up the other end and drilled the other well. There's two breaks in there. On the first well, they opened the bottom break. That's when they screened out, and they only got 10 barrel in there. Well, it made a lot of oil. On the north end, they opened the top zone and not the bottom zone. Well, there's a great big gas deal there, and that's pushing all that oil to them, and they're running high oil pressure on my wellheads, and that's why it don't make as much oil as it should. And another thing is, they have to get that head kicked off there, get a little, then they shut them down. Of course, and they told me, and this, well, I want to read you this deal and then, or tell you about it.
Well, be very brief. We're just responding to the questions you were asked and any clarifications you need to make to those answers that you
Okay,
gave.
well, see, here's one about Joe Baker. Do you know him? He worked for Val.
I don't believe you were asked about him.
Well, I brought up Joe Baker a while ago, and I told Joe Baker, I said, Joe, you're losing oil with them gun barrels. I mean, not gun barrels, them gas separators. He said, Bill, we're not losing one drop of it. And he said, I said, what do you mean? He said, because down there at that disposal well, we got a gun barrel, and it's plumbed inside. It's for a gun barrel. Now, that is, and I said something to him later, and he said, his words were, if you give Val any trouble, they will shut your wells down. That's what he told me. And it bothered me quite a bit. And let me tell you something. Them investors, not investors, them mineral owners, they're getting a little wake up, but I don't know. Can they have I want to ask Tom something. Can they have a lease and not be registered at the courthouse?
Mr. Gates, you're the witness right now, so this is not time to ask anybody questions.
This witness don't know. So you're calling her shut down, right? I'm done, I guess. Unless you got another question.
Thank you.
I
don't believe there are any additional questions, but we do appreciate you being here to give your testimony. And you may step down off the witness stand, but stay there with us. But you're not under oath anymore. You're not answering questions anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what, everything I told you today was the truth. And if I lied to you in any way, may the Lord strike me dead where I'm sitting, and I mean it.
Well, I appreciate that. You were under oath, so we hope that's the case. All right. Well, what we have concluded with all of the witnesses today. It's my understanding we are not expecting any post-hearing briefs to be filed, but we will accept closing statements in this matter. So that means this is everybody's final word, just to make your position clear in this case. I am going to establish time limits for these closing statements, and I'm going to set that at 5 minutes apiece. I believe it would be most helpful for the commission just to get a brief and succinct understanding of what each party's position is and why they believe the application either should or should not be granted. So for closing statements, we will begin first with the applicant. The applicant will close. We will start with Mr. Gates, protester. You've got 5 minutes if you would like to make any additional statement beyond the testimony that you've given in writing and what you've given in response to questions. If you would like to make a final closing statement, now is your opportunity.
Well, there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to handle this, and of course, I'll be 84 years old in the 1st of April, the 14th of April, and I've been pretty lucky all my life. I mean, I ain't been real lucky, but at least I lived this long, and I kind of want to, as far as I know, I've never killed anybody, and I want to live it out that way. I mean, I want to be a pretty good fella if I can, but I tell you what, I cannot stand the liar and the thief. I have no place for them, and I don't think they got no place. But that's what we're dealing with. You got to accept people I know the way they are and not the way you want them. Sometimes that's pretty tough.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gates. We will now move to staff. Mr. Marsh, would you like to make a closing statement? 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair French. Staff will just incorporate the remarks that we made in our opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Mr. Rhodes, would you like to make a closing statement? 5 minutes.
Likewise, Chair French, we will refer to our opening remarks. However, I just want to summarize this by saying that the well was drilled at a legal location based upon the information provided to the Corporation Commission. There have been surveys that have been provided by the protesters that conflict with the distance of the well from the protesters' land and mineral rights. Be that as it may, even if you accept a reduced distance from the wellbore to the protesters' property line, the influence of the fracture treatment that was conducted on the Rogers 120 well is not sufficient to impact in any way the protesters' Mississippian reserves. Therefore, there's no violation of, there's no waste, and there's no violation of correlative rights, and there's no reason why this application should not be granted. All the reliable and relevant evidence should lead the commission to conclude that the status quo should be maintained and that Val Energy should not be penalized for its Rogers 120 well, other than production at reduced allowable as recommended by the commission staff.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you.
All right. Just quickly before we proceed or before we adjourn, as I mentioned, I understood the parties are not expecting to file legal briefs following this hearing. So just want to confirm no additional post-hearing procedural matters that we need to discuss. I'm seeing shakings of heads. So, and anything else from our commissioners? Looks like a no. All right, this does conclude our hearing in this docket. At this time, we will close the record and adjourn. Thank you all for your participation this morning. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.